Switching to politics because that is something that affects their lives of every single American citizen, so it's something that we should pay attention to. Sports are games. We can always choose to turn that on and off. We can't turn off our lives, you know what I'm saying? Politics do matter, unfortunately, by the way. Anyway, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are set to face off tomorrow night in the first presidential debate of the cycle. The debate will be hosted at CNN's Atlanta studios at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the first debate between a sitting president and a former president, and is one of only 2 scheduled debates in the 2024 race as of now. The next is slated for September 10th. The debate settings are a departure from previous election years, just so you know, traditionally held by the Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates, which has overseen presidential debates since 1988. The Biden campaign said the president would not participate in debates sponsored by the commission due to what it said was an unwillingness to enforce the rules during the 2020 debate. If you remember, in those debates in 2020, Donald Trump interrupted Biden, according to reports, at least 70 times. This time around, microphones will be muted when somebody is talking and the other is listening. Of course, they'll have 2 minutes to give an answer to the questions from one of the moderators, which is scheduled to be Jake Tapper and Dana Bash from CNN. You'll have 1 minute for your rebuttal, and then after that, you'll get an additional minute to come back and piggyback off of the rebuttal statements that were made against you. And Bash and Tapper will use their discretion to decide if any further dialogue will be allowed on that particular subject. It gets interesting to me from the CNN standpoint in this one way. I'm not trying to judge or sit here and be judge and jury against the CNN network. I don't do that to my colleagues, but the bottom line is we are talking about a presidential debate, and it is the fourth estate, and we have an obligation to make sure that we are as objective as we possibly can be. So it can't be one of those situations where Bash and Tapper come across as being biased when the CNN network has been accused primarily by Donald Trump over the years for being fake news and for having a bias in favor of liberals as opposed to conservatives. This is what some of them say. I will say this to you, say what you want about Fox News collectively and overall, even though I'm a Neil Cavuto fan, I can tell you that right now. I'm a big-time Neil Cavuto fan. I think that he's Brett Baer, I'm another fan of his. Watch his interview when he sat down with Donald Trump and he picked apart what Donald Trump said and how he insulted an abundance of cabinet members that he had initially hired. I find them to be very credible, and I thought the job that Sean Hannity did with the debate between California Governor Gavin Newsom and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, I think it was up to snuff. And I believe that Tapper and Bash will be up to snuff, and they'll be up for the challenge this Thursday night, tomorrow night. So let me just get that out of the way. I just think it's important to mention. Here's the other thing. When you're talking about Donald Trump and you're talking about Joe Biden, and you're talking about what we're looking for in this debate, here's the question. What are we looking for? Let's call it what it is. One less than the other, we're looking for stability. We're looking for cogency. Trump has sounded a little bit out there. I know we get on Joe Biden for mumbling and bumbling and all that stuff. He's 81 years of age. He looks at times, the way he walks and how unstable he appears. Definitely appears to be the case at times. Sometimes when he drifts off a little bit and he starts mumbling, we just don't see him to be as sharp as he once was, okay? But he's still our president, and a lot of people believe that he's doing an outstanding job. If you're a leftist, if you're a liberal, you think he's doing a great job. If you're a conservative, you think he's doing a terrible job. In the case of Donald Trump, he's 78 years of age, not 81 like Joe Biden, approaching 32 years of age, but 78. But there have been times where Donald Trump has sounded a bit wild, a bit out there, to say the least, even though he definitely seems more energetic than Joe Biden. Here's where it gets tricky. If you're Donald Trump, you can't go out there Thursday night and Joe Biden looks more together than you. He can't look more cogent. He can't look more stable. More importantly, he can't mumble less than you, Donald Trump. That cannot happen. One could easily argue that the kind of pressure that Donald Trump is under right now is more pressure than he has ever been on a debate stage, because he's a former president. and he's trying to get back into the White House. And as a result, you have been leaning on Joe Biden being this god-awful president. Well, what stats will you have to back that up? Are you going to lean on the economy? You're certainly going to lean on the borders. Even Andrew Cuomo went on Real Time with Bill Maher, along with Bill Maher, lamenting the lack of a plan that Joe Biden and his administration and the liberals had as it pertained to our borders, having open borders with no plan whatsoever to take care of the folks that you let into the country. Now, that to me is the easiest fight that Donald Trump is going to have on his hands. The economy is another matter, okay? International relations, global relations, geopolitical stuff, that's another matter. We shall see. But the border is his issue that he should lean on. And outside of that, it's really, really about cogency and togetherness and how astute and sharp you truly, truly are compared to Joe Biden, because you made that an issue for Joe Biden. So if you go out there looking less stable or just as bad as you pretend Joe Biden would look, how's that going to make you look? If you're Joe Biden, I hate bringing this up about the age, about the togetherness, about the cogency. I voted for the man. I'm going to vote for him again. But I tell you this, that don't mean I got to be happy about it. And so that's one of the things that pisses me off about the liberals. You know, you can sit up there and say, I'm going to vote for this person. They want you to be happy about it. You want me to give you a George Foreman smile. Oh, look at this. Oh, things are so great. Really? You sure about that? Our borders are not an issue? Folks coming into the country illegally are not an issue? Illegal immigrants being given prepaid credit cards, that's not an issue? New York okaying $53 million to spend, that ain't an issue? Violence in the streets of America, that's not an issue? People getting arrested for assault, people getting arrested for robbery, people getting arrested for all types of stuff and getting out of jail the same day, that ain't an issue? Some of the more prominent blue states in the country looking to raise taxes at every turn, primarily primarily California and New Jersey, if not New York. That ain't an issue? So all things are not bad, all things are not perfect. Each side has an argument to make. It comes down to two relatively unpopular candidates. Me personally, I wish Michelle Obama was running. Me personally, I would root for Gavin Newsom if he wasn't the governor of California, living around 14.4% in state income taxes, and folks trying to elevate it above 16%. He can't win a general election, in my opinion, with those kind of stats that are being thrown out there. But he looks damn good in those blue suits. I tell you that much. He looks very presidential. But he ain't running. Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States, clearly being held back by the Biden administration. But what have you done to really stand out and step out to be a candidate in the event that Biden wouldn't be in this position, which some people have speculated about? These are questions. I'm not making any accusations. I'm saying all of that stuff is on the line because if Biden shows up Thursday night and he is an unmitigated disaster, you're going to have people clamoring for him to step aside for the betterment of the party and the country, and to let somebody like a Kamala Harris or another candidate step in and go up against Donald Trump themselves. That's what you're going to see transpire. That's what you're going to see. So it's incredibly important that President Joe Biden show up Thursday night and he is as sharp as a tack. He is as sharp as he was the night he gave the State of the Union address months ago, at least in the eyes of some of the liberals and what they were saying. He's got to show up, and he's got to upstage former President Donald Trump. I will give Joe Biden credit. Everybody knows that when you're the incumbent, you're a president, and you engage in a debate, you have very little to gain and an awful lot to lose. So why is he taking this? You know why he's taking this? I'm going to tell you, and I'm just guessing. I think Joe Biden is supremely confident that he knows the issues a hell of a lot better than former President Donald Trump. He knows the issues. He can articulate his position on the issues. And his belief is all I have to do is show that I'm spry, that I'm cogent, that I'm up for the challenge of doing 4 more years of this. That's what Joe Biden is saying. That's how he's feeling. Because you got to remember, when Donald Trump was asked to prep for a presidential debate in 2020, remember he was being prepped to some degree by former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Do y'all remember that? I do. And I remember when he was being prepped, according to the reports, he says, Trump, I know how to do this. I'm already the president. But that was after he walked into the meeting and said, what the F am I doing here? I'm reading from an article in the Washington Post as we speak. Christie, who was running the exercise, gave him a list of his predecessors who had coasted on similar self-confidence as they ran for a second term, only to belly flop in their first debates. Christie recounted the episode in his 2021 book, Republican Rescue. And then, if you remember, Donald Trump got shellacked in the first debate. He interrupted Joe Biden at every turn when Christie specifically advised him, shut up, be quiet, let Joe Biden speak. He, quote, in the book, Christie's parting admonition to Trump was, let Biden talk, he'll hang himself. And Trump wouldn't listen. And according to a Washington Post count, had interrupted Biden more than 70 times. So now there's no audience to feed off of. You're not going to be interrupted by cheers and boos. You're not going to be interrupted by noise. You're going to be muted when it's not your turn to talk, so you have no choice but to listen to the other party, and they have no choice but to listen to you. And it's going to be a debate. And it could be on the pertinent issues, the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that's still ongoing, and the lives that have been lost since that time, intentionally, accidentally, and otherwise. You got all of that going on, pro-Palestinian supporters, pro-Israeli supporters. They got to comment on that. They got to speak on the economy. They got to speak on national security. They got to speak on our borders. They got to speak on crime and safety in this country. They got to speak on all of that. And all of us need to be watching, because in case you haven't noticed, our lives have been profoundly impacted more than we ever imagined. We got shit to deal with. And this is where it starts, by deciphering who's going to be the better person for presidency of the United States from the year 2025 for 4 years. I can't wait for the debate. I think all of y'all should be on top of your P's and Q's looking at this. To me, it ain't even coming down to the issues, because we know where both stand. It's about who looks sharper. We assumed it would be Trump because of all the fumbles we've seen from Joe Biden. Let's see what Trump does Thursday night in Atlanta.